Jalen had always been the kind of kid who believed that no dream was too big. Living in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, he was used to hearing things like, "That's not for people like us," or "You'll never make it." But those words, the ones that stuck out the most, came from a voice he never expected to hear them from. It wasn't his schoolmates, nor his teachers, it was his coach. The moment Jalen stepped into the fencing gym, the atmosphere felt like a world apart. It was quiet, almost reverent, and the gleaming swords on the wall seemed to call out to him in a way that no other sport had. He had always been an athlete: basketball, soccer, track. But something about the precision, the strategy, and the speed of fencing captivated him. He was certain he could master it, but his excitement quickly met resistance when he told his school coach about his interest. "Fencing isn't for black kids, Jalen," the coach had said, not out of malice, but simply because that was what he had always believed. "It's an elite sport, and it's not something people from your background typically get into." Jalen's heart sank. He had never been one to back down from a challenge, but this felt different. It was more than just a sport, it was an identity. It was a statement about who he could be in a world that often told him what he couldn't. But despite the discouragement, Jalen kept his resolve. He trained in secret, practicing with makeshift equipment and learning about the sport from videos online. As the weeks passed, Jalen's skills grew. He became quicker, more precise. The technique he had worked so hard to develop started to come together. He began attending the local fencing club, where the other kids were mostly from affluent backgrounds, their families supporting their passion for the sport. They looked at him with curiosity at first. An outsider, someone who didn't belong. But Jalen didn't care. He kept his head down and focused on his goal. It wasn't long before a local competition was announced, and despite the doubts swirling in his mind, Jalen signed up. It was his chance to prove everyone wrong, especially his coach, who still doubted his abilities. He entered the competition with a quiet confidence that even he hadn't expected to feel. When the day of the duel arrived, Jalen stood at the edge of the mat, the buzz of the crowd filling his ears. The air was thick with tension. His opponent was a seasoned fencer, someone who had been in the sport for years. The first few seconds of the duel felt like an eternity. Jalen moved quickly, expertly deflecting his opponent's thrusts. Each attack was calculated, each move an extension of his countless hours of practice. The crowd gasped as Jalen performed a perfect parry and riposte, landing a touch on his opponent's chest. The judges, who had initially shown little interest in the duel, now leaned in, their eyes widening in disbelief. Jalen didn't stop. He continued to move with a fluidity that betrayed the fact that this was his first real competition. His opponent was good, but Jalen was faster. And in that moment, the judges knew they were witnessing something special. The match ended with Jalen's victory, a clean win, 15-10. The judges were stunned, not just at the outcome, but at the manner in which it had unfolded. Jalen had not only defied the odds, but had done so with grace, skill, and poise. It wasn't just a victory for him. It was a victory for everyone who had ever been told they couldn't. As Jalen stood on the podium, his heart racing, he looked out at the crowd, his eyes searching for the one person who had been there from the beginning. His coach, the man who had told him fencing wasn't for black kids, the man who had doubted him. And there he was, standing at the back of the room, his mouth open in shock. The expression on his face said it all: he had been wrong. Jalen had done it. He had proven that no matter where you came from, no matter the color of your skin, you could excel in anything you set your mind to. The rest of the day passed in a blur for Jalen. He was approached by parents, coaches, and fellow fencers, all offering congratulations. But the most important moment came when his coach approached him after the ceremony, his eyes filled with regret. "Jalen," he said quietly, "I was wrong. You've shown me something I didn't think was possible." Jalen smiled, his heart light. "I'm just getting started," he replied. And that was the moment Jalen knew he had not just shocked the judges. He had changed the narrative. One duel, one victory, was enough to show the world that dreams could never be limited by the color of your skin. It was a victory for all the kids who had been told they couldn't, for all the people who had been made to feel less than. Jalen's journey was far from over. It was just the beginning.